Welcome everyone to this stream. I'm going to be your speaker today. So let's wait 5 minutes to wait for more audience and we can start with that. By now, can you type in the chat where is the people who is seeing this stream? So please go ahead and type. I want to read to all of the comments. USA. Okay. From Bogota. Nice to see you here, Diego. Okay, I think that we can start with this presentation right now. So, welcome everyone to this talk. We are going to talk about a change in the paradigm that exists today, and that is from DevOps Specialist to DevOps DNA. I want to ask to you, how do you eat in this concept? This is a talk released by the Rolling Scopes School. My name is Santiago Castellanos. I'm going to be your speaker today. So, welcome everyone, and let's start with this presentation. So, I'm going to start with a simple question. What is DevOps? I would like to hear from you the definition before continuing, so let's switch to Menti. Please go ahead and leave in Menti all your answers, please. We have people from Russia, Turkey, and USA, Tennessee. Nice to see you guys. So please go to the Menti and let's answer this question, please. What do you think is DevOps? What do you understand as DevOps? A methodology? Okay. What else? I want to hear you. What else do you think that could it be? A culture that is the middle of development and operations, mainly culture. Nice to see this kind of answers. A method to avoid human errors as well. Nice. A culture encourage a mix of skill sets from devs and ops background. Okay. Okay, so having these answers, we can continue with the presentation. Thank you guys for your participation. So let's continue with that. So right now, thanks for all your answers. All of them are very good, and I like them because they will be the base of this presentation. Let's start with a simple definition of DevOps. I took this definition from the Dictionary of Tech with it Reich's pronunciation. I'm going to read the definition. DevOps is a compound of development, dev, and operations, ops, and DevOps is the union of people, process, and technology to continually provide value to our customers. So, after this definition, you are going to say, what the? But I think the same. So, I'm going to provide you my personal definition, what I think is DevOps, and you are going to tell if I am near or not with this definition. So, for me, and this is my personal definition, it isn't a faith dogma. It's DevOps is a culture of teamwork, passion for excellence, and continuous learning. It embraces change, automate tasks, and measure progress, all to deliver quality software quickly. So, are you agree with me with that? But maybe after that, you are going to say, but wait, if it's a culture, why do I met a DevOps engineer at this moment in my company? And this is the core of this presentation. I'm going to explain that. So let us start by discussing the origin of the word DevOps. Sometime before 2009, the word DevOps wasn't even in the tech lexicon. Back then, developers and operation teams were two separate entities within organizations. Developers wrote the code, while operation people handled server maintenance and deployments. However, this approach was at odds with companies like Google and Amazon, which were embracing a more integrated model. To bridge this gap, discussion began about merging the developer and operation departments. The term DevOps was officially coined in 2009 when Patrick DeBois, who is this guy on the left side, organized the DevOps Days conference to explore these ideas. DevOps, as its core, meant the merging of developer and operation roles, fostering a culture of collaboration and shared responsibility. So maybe you aren't going to hear anything anymore that someone else is saying, oh, it's working on my machine and I don't have more responsibility about that. You need to fix that in your own machine. And you aren't going to see in the operation team that is very overloaded of all of this work. So let's continue with another Menti. Before continue, I want to hear all the DevOps tools that you know. Could you mention some DevOps tool right now? Please go to the Menti and start typing all the answers that you have. Jenkins. Yeah, I think that is the most, I don't know, how can I say that? Maybe not the most important, but is the more highlight tool that you're going to find in DevOps culture, because this is the core of the DevOps for me, the CI/CD. So we have Jenkins, Ansible, Terraform, BCS, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, SonarQube. Nice. GitLab CI. That's right. We also have again BCS, BCT, CI/CD products. Okay, nice. Linux, which is really important. IAC as well. Cloud, I'm seeing Cloud in our chat. Okay, that's really nice. Okay, nice to see all of that. So let's continue with the presentation. So after that, I'm going to do a brief explanation of this. As DevOps became more popular, certain tools and companies started saying they were DevOps tools. This led to the creation of different tools like CI/CD, Docker, metrics, and tracing. But it got a little confusing. These tools were advertised as a way to have a DevOps culture, but it's essential to understand that using DevOps tools is not the same as truly having a DevOps culture. we need to have this in mind because it's really important. You can handle several things with DevOps tools, but it isn't the same of including DevOps as a culture in your current company. So now let's talk about DevOps engineers. Because there was a rising demand for people who knew how to use these tools, many started calling themselves DevOps engineers, as me. But here's the interesting part. This title had two different meanings. It could be mean someone who used DevOps tools, or it could refer to a developer who actually create these tools as well. We have these two parts in this definition. So the main question of this presentation is, on which cases can I consider that I have culture in my company, or I'm only using a role to integrate all the DevOps tools that I have under my hat? So when does DevOps wear which hat? So I'm going to explain that in the next slide. Well, I'm going to do this explanation with a couple of examples. So when you can consider that you are having culture in your company. DevOps as a culture emphasizes collaboration, shared responsibility, and continuous improvement. It's about breaking down silos and fostering a collective mindset of efficiency and agility. So, for example, when teams work without problems, collaborate, share knowledge, and join on the entire development to deployment lifecycle, that's embodying DevOps as a culture. So, for example, when all the things in the company is working around DevOps, you are going to see that, for example, you have good process definition, you are having a good CI/CD tools to increase the proficiency of your teams. You are going to see that all the people is working in different, for example, Git culture as well to try to deploy their changes. You are going to find several, I think, when you're working as a culture. It's working with Agile as well, because Agile with DevOps is a good integration at this moment. And when you are talking about a DevOps role, on the other hand, involve individuals with specialized skills in using DevOps tools and practices to optimize developer operations. They focus on tasks like automation, CI/CD pipelines, management, and infrastructure scaling. So, for example, a DevOps engineer might be responsible for setting up and maintaining CI/CD pipelines, ensuring smooth and rapid code deployment to all the people in the company. So, I'm not going to tell you that culture is better than a role or role is better than a culture, because at this moment, the companies that have a really mature environments using DevOps are using both, are using culture and are using this role, this kind of roles, because we need a dedicated person to be responsible of that. But also we need to promote that all the people needs to be aware about this kind of behavior, this kind of DevOps approach. If all the people is aware about that, your company is going to increase in all the sites or the of the industry. So let's continue with the next slide, and I'm going to provide a couple of tips related with how can I infuse DevOps in your company DNA. So right now, maybe you are going to ask, so, okay, all of this sounds really good, but how can I do that? How can I promote my DevOps culture in my company? Because at this moment, we have only DevOps as a role, and we have one person or two person, maybe three, that are working behind the scenes to deploy all the things to all the company. So, for example, if we need to do some changes, we need to attack the DevOps person that is working with all the DevOps tool to see on which is the better way to do that. So maybe I'm going to provide these kind of tips. So right now I try to put these DevOps image that all of you maybe are aware of, but I try to explain all of these concepts with a brief phrase that maybe it's not related with the concept itself, but maybe it's more related with how can I promote that? How can I increase the proficiency of my current company, and how can I get all the DevOps things inside my culture, my company culture. So the first thing is encourage cross-functional collaboration. Break down silos between development, operation, and other IT teams. Encourage open communication, share goals, and collective ownership of the project. When you have all of this in mind, you are going to see that your current company is going to improve their proficiency, because right now you have walls that maybe these walls can delete all the collaboration that you could have between your teams. So right now, as a DevOps culture, you need to promote the cross collaboration between different teams. So the second thing is prioritize automation. Implement automation tools and practices for repetitive tasks such as code deployment, testing, infrastructure provisioning. This accelerates processes and minimize manual errors, because at this moment we are doing, all the people, everyone is doing the migration from this manual approach to automation, to CI/CD or DevOps approach. Because when you can delete all the manual input from your processes, you are going to see that you are going to improve in several ways as well. Because it's different when a person that needs to do the same process repetitively is going to fail in some time, by because he's watching another thing that he shouldn't do, or is doing something else. So for that reason, it's better if you have automation of all of these processes. The third thing is going to be embrace continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD. In fact, it's continuous integration, deployment, delivery, and deployment, because all of these three is the properly work of a DevOps should have in mind. Maybe to reach the deployment, it's really difficult at this moment to the companies, because right now maybe they are focused on trying to implement integration and delivery, because deployment requires a mature environment to do all the changes without just a single commit in your machine. So for that reason, the people is going towards, but slowly. So related with this, establish robust CI/CD pipelines to ensure that code changes are consistently integrated, tested, and deployed, allowing for faster and more reliable software releases. Because if you are going to do several environments, you are going to replicate all your code, and you are going to see that if something is working the same way in dev environment, stage environment, pre-prod, maybe you are going to see near behavior in your production environment. I mentioned that this maybe because sometimes, for example, in different cases, you are going to see that your production environment has another configuration, or it's a bit different, and for that reason it's going to fail your processes. But if you can um, do a replication of all the environments that you have at this moment on all the stages of your product, you are going to see that the result is going to be the same. And I'm going to be clear with that, because maybe you are trying to replicate your infrastructure in different environments, you are going to see that something is failing for some reason. But if you are the owner of the, for example, the AWS account or Azure or GCP, you can set up all of these parameters to have idempotence in your deployments. So the fourth thing is going to be promote a learning culture. Encourage continuous learning and professional development among team members. Provide resources, trainings, and opportunities for skill enhancement in DevOps practices and technologies. This is something that we are doing right now with the Rolling Scope schools. We are doing a full roadmap of all the things that a DevOps engineer should be aware, or maybe some person that want to understand what are the DevOps doing behind the scenes. So for that reason, we did all of this roadmap. You are going to find that we have Linux components, infrastructure as code, configuration management, containerization, and virtualization, which is really important. This part, at this moment, we are going to talk about Docker, also orchestration with Kubernetes, monitoring, and some special programming languages that maybe you, as a DevOps or someone that want to understand more all the DevOps culture needs, which is Bash, and Python. So the fifth thing is focus on feedback and iteration. So establish feedbacks loops at every stage of the software development lifecycle. Regularly review and iterate on process to write continuous improvement and adapt to change requirements. And this is something that always happens. Let's suppose that you are working as a DevOps in a company, your title is as a DevOps engineer. So you are working on one thing one day, and the next day you are going to see that you need to switch all the scope because at this moment all the business requirements change. So you need to understand all the scope, and you need to be focused on, you need to be aware that sometimes you need to change your scope, and with that you are going to change all the things that you are doing. But the idea is that you can gather the feedback to try to improve the new workflow that you are going to work. And this is another important thing. The sixth one is going to be integrate security into DevOps practices. At this moment, we have another concept, but maybe it could be another talk that is related with DevSecOps, and this is the integration of this security part in the middle of development and operations. Because if you are going to embed security measures throughout the development processes, ensuring that security is a fundamental consideration from code creation to deployment. And right now, for example, for financial services or another kind of services, it's really important because, and also in healthcare as well, because for example, if you are exposing some kind of data, for example, in USA, you are going to have legal issues in this country because you cannot expose this kind of data by regulation. So for that reason, this is the most important thing that we need to include in the middle of all of these stages, all of the between the plan phase and build and commit and release and all the things that you could have in DevOps. You need to be aware all the compliance that you do have that you should have in mind. So the final one is going to be measure performance and set goals. So define key metrics to track the performance of your DevOps practices. Use these metrics to set goals, monitor progress, and drive further optimization. This is another thing important because right now with the metrics that you are going to gather from your systems, you are going to see if you need to improve something else, if you need to change another thing. So for that reason, and this is something that is the input to this DevOps culture. For that reason, we have an infinite at this moment in the image that I'm showing to you guys, because all the processes that you have in DevOps have a feedback, and you need to put this feedback in the first slot of the queue, and you need to gather all the new requirements to start a new workflow. So by following these 7 tips, you'll be well on your way to fostering a strong DevOps culture within your company, leading to improved collaboration, faster delivery of high quality software, and increased overall efficiency. Because at this moment, at the end of this talk, you are going to be aware that we could have both things. We could have a DevOps role in my company, and we could have as well the promotion of an entire culture. But at the beginning of all of these things, you need to be aware what I'm trying to achieve, what I need to do to reach this stage. Because at this moment, we're seeing that in different companies. As I mentioned before, we have that at Google, at Amazon. At the moment, we are, these companies as well are promoting continuous learning to all of their companies, for example, with certifications or other things. You are going to see at this moment that a person who is a delivery manager or who is product owner needs to be aware of cloud processes. For example, these persons are certified in different architecture things or development or operation as well, because they need to understand the full scope that what are you doing. And this is the end of this talk. So thank you guys. I really appreciate this current audience. I expect that this could help to you a lot, because maybe you can dissociate all the things that are behind our role. So thanks for all, guys, and take care.